Okay, so once again, it is Kara from Wowzers, and I am on to the next clip that you can use to help enhance your experience as a teacher on Wowzers. Definitely considered part of the training that we do with teachers one-on-one. But here, obviously, you're accessing this online, and just want to highlight a few things here. So again, we're in Jody Cozy's class, and what I'm going to show you here now is how to access individual student reports. So what we're going to do is utilize this dashboard, again, the main page for teachers, and we're going to scroll all the way down here to a sample student. And we're actually going to use Reed in this case. If you saw the previous clip, we were looking at Reed and how he was doing with individual standards. So what we're going to do here, instead of placing Reed into a group by clicking off on this gray box, instead we're going to look at his individual file. So how we do that is actually clicking on his icon here or on his name. And as you'll see here in a second, it brings up his Wowzers file here. So several things to look at, several things that you can utilize here as a teacher. Obviously where his coins are located. This is where you edit or delete a student if someone leaves your class and you do need to save credits that you've purchased at your school site. This is also where you can review the word problems that were presented to Reed. In addition, though, I think this is where the more useful pieces are. That's under reports. So if I click on quiz scores, what's nice about this, just for Reed, Reed has been isolated here, and you can see all of the scores that the student has worked with within each one of the sections here and all the individual days. So truly, if you're looking for how a student is progressing on the next generation assessments, this will give you a very good idea. Again, it's listed just by Reed here, and then these are the sections that are going that are listed all the way going down, and he is a third grader. So I'm going to click on my back button here and come back onto his Wowzers file. What's nice is that you can now access additionally his standards report. So the last time we did have Reed working in California, so I'm going to access that once again. I'm going to click on California Common Core content standards. So again, aligned with the state standards that are appropriate. You choose those, whatever works for you. We are working within the content that Reed was working with as well. So coming down, it's kind of interesting. In some of these sections, it appears as if Reed has not performed, so he hasn't worked with some of the standards that are listed here. But in some of them, as you can see by the solid blue stars, he's performed very well. And again, those sections that are associated with it are listed here in particular and in detail. So now it can give you a variety of information. One is you would have to, you would be able to, I should say, sit down with your implementation specialist and discuss what would be the next steps. For some teachers, it would be that you assign students to Wowzers sections as they are listed here. Like in this particular case, the student has not experienced 3.nf.2.a, representing a fraction. So you can certainly feel free to assign 3.26. But continuing on that same path, it may be that a teacher would discover that that student is getting some individual help from a teacher aide. That student, through practice within the classroom, needs additional work with manipulatives. It may be that the student, you're at the end of the year and you just didn't have time to get to those sections. So you do have to look at this through a teacher's lens, but certainly this is the place to look for in terms of mapping out exactly where the student achieved those standards. So I'm going to tap back into one more time here for Reed. Using the back button. One more that I do like, and I like to highlight this, is the activity report for any given student, again this case for Reed. So what I like about this is that you know exactly when the student completed that activity. Very important if the student is working on this in the evening hours. In addition, you know the score and of course how long they spent on a given activity. So sometimes we do have teachers who say, well, gosh, you know, he didn't really, this particular student, Maria, did not score very well on the quiz, but let's see what was happening as the student was going through the lesson and the practice. So when you look at this, it does give you additional information that you can use. Also, it gives you information in terms of a student rushing through a quiz. So again, knowing the length of time, it gives you that added information, something that would enhance the learning and the activity and the understanding of how the student experienced the material. I'm going to click on the back button one more time because there's something that I do want to highlight here, and this tends to get a lot of attention, and rightfully so, by teachers, because you want to have students within a system, especially a computerized system like wowzers digital system, that students would be placed on an individual path, so that gets attention. This really should be treated like a temporary path, and we do like to make that point. We do that within one-on-one training too. Now, the reason why this should just be considered as a temporary path is because it really does process in a very different way. It's not easy to access a multitude of scores on an individual path. It's really, indeed, like I mentioned, a temporary path. On a temporary path, what we invite you to do is to have a student maybe retake a single quiz or maybe retake a practice. So even though we do give you the option to select a full section or a single day, we are pushing our teachers to just assign a single activity that you do see listed here. Again, if you want a student to go over a full section or you really want to take them off of the class path, we invite you to go on to an individual path where you would make a group of one student, again by that click off method within the dashboard. So that highlights what you would see and I believe concludes a lot of the clips that you will see for teacher training using wowzers.